Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome to another YouTube video of mine. For those of you guys that are new around here, basically what I do on this channel is I'm actually a variety channel. I actually do a whole bunch of things. I do gaming, I do vlogs, I do commentaries like this, for example, and I do funny moments, I do skit videos, etc, etc. So if you are new around here and you do consider this to be the content that you're looking for, definitely end up checking out the rest of the video and also maybe even liking and subscribing. But in today's video, everybody, what I want to talk about is the very big question: how will YouTube end? YouTube is a monstrous platform. It's been around for so many years now, and the one thing that a lot of people do not understand about YouTube is that eventually it is going to end. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow, might not be for a long time, but eventually it will end. Like any other trend, like any other popular thing in the world, it will have its high and it will have its low, and we're just waiting for when that low will be. So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but I want to talk about this because, number one, I think this will actually be a very educational and very good video for not only the people that are trying to figure out how the YouTube algorithm works, but also for anybody that just wants to know more about how just social media works. So if you enjoy this type of style video, once again, please leave a like. I know this is a little bit different than my normal gaming videos for those of you guys that already watch me, but I hope you guys enjoy this video nonetheless. So let's talk about this. So when it comes to YouTube, YouTube has been around since 2005, and now we're in the year 2019. It's been around for almost 15 years. 15 years, that's a long amount of time. I think that's the longest running video platform ever, and at least in my generation. The other social media apps that have coordinated with YouTube alongside it, whether it was intentional or not, would be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, because those are the other four big, I almost did five, four other big social media apps. I guess you could also throw like Twitch in there, but Twitch is kind of weird right now. That's kind of like undecided. But yeah, we have all these other main apps alongside it, and these all have one thing in common, which is just bringing people together. And the one thing about YouTube that makes it a little bit different is that YouTube has such a diverse way of doing things. YouTube, you can end up doing videos, you can end up streaming, you can end up interacting in the community tab, you can end up making a whole bunch of other content. That's just the basic few. And the one thing with YouTube is that YouTube is always constantly changing. The algorithm, to prevent it from being manipulated, is always changing. One of the things you'll always hear YouTubers talk about is the algorithm, and how that sometimes it can be a good thing, and then how sometimes it can be a bad thing. And I'm going to reference some of the past things with YouTube and its algorithm and such to kind of give you a reference point. So when it comes to YouTube, there's been a couple of main events. Specifically, I would say four that have impacted not only YouTube, but also just social media in general, because these have not only made YouTube change for better or for worse at times, but has made it so that way the way that we look at the internet has changed, because you can only have access to the internet if you're willing to post it to a certain platform, unless that is you make your own, which I very rarely see people do, is make their own platform. This is an iCarly. So you end up either posting it to like YouTube, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, etc. And the thing is, with YouTube's constant changing algorithms, sometimes that can affect what you're trying to say. Sometimes it may censor what you're saying, sometimes it might not let you do it at all, and sometimes it might end up having it skyrocket and then you got a viral video. So when it comes to YouTube, how does this having to involve when it ends? Well, YouTube's algorithm, if it's always changing, eventually once it ends up changing a certain way, that one way will not work. You can't have just right. The opposite of right is wrong. So eventually, with a changing system, you're eventually going to mess up. Whether it be one day, whether it be some random day, it's like flipping a coin, just that's it. And so when it comes to YouTube, what's going to be, I guess, the thing that breaks the camel's back, the straw. And the one thing that I think that the straw is the way that people are. It always goes back to people, and I will explain why that is now. So here is my main reasons about why I think, at least in my opinion, this is how YouTube is going to end. So let's start from the very beginning. So I think that one of the main big events in YouTube's history that has allowed it to end up getting to the point where the algorithm has changed, and it's changed in such a way that this is how I eventually think it's going to end. The first thing is that I think that when you have events where YouTubers do such big events, that it changes the algorithm. So for example, previous events is the CSGO Lotto scandal with T Martin and Syndicate, who is big gaming YouTubers. For those of you guys that are not familiar, T Martin Syndicate, they ended up doing a website called CSGO Lotto, which was a gambling website for in-game skins or items from a PC video game. Now the thing is though with this website is that they ran the website even though they were participating on it and trying to make videos on it, which they did not disclose, which is a felony. And the thing is though is that the way that they ended up handling it was very bad. They blatantly lied. It actually made world news. And the thing is though is that even though technically T Martin got more of the heat than Syndicate did, the YouTube algorithm didn't really end up changing in a good way. It kind of changed in a bad way. YouTube looked at this and was like, okay, now we actually have an issue and we're going to make the rules more strict and we're going to make it more hard. But that wasn't quite that bad compared to what we had later on. Another thing that ended up changing the YouTube algorithm for better or for worse, depending on I guess how you look at it, was also when you had the drama channels such as Leafy is Here, Keemstar, Scarce. These channels would specifically target real life events, but usually negative. They would go, I guess, the Fox News type of route, I guess you could say, where they would end up talking about every horrible tragedy you can end up thinking of. And the problem was that these channels blew up because as much as we don't like to admit it, us as human beings, we look for problems. We hate negativity, but yet we still gravitate toward it. I'm not saying that we get bored, necessarily, we don't like seeing, people actually do well. That's not the case at all. I'm just saying is that us as humans, we are meant to solve problems, and so when you give us a problem, the only thing we can do is solve it. We have a very hard time at ignoring it. And the example is that a drama channel will bring up something that is negative, which we feel like we are compelled to fix. And that's where they end up getting you, and that's where they end up getting you addicted. And that's the problem. When they ended up doing that, all these channels ended up blowing up, and it got really popular until eventually they ended up falling down and not becoming popular anymore. It had its high, and it had its low. But the problem was, though, is that YouTube had to emphasize the algorithm to not promote horrible things that they were putting in their videos. And then I would say that the last big event when it comes to people or YouTubers is the problem with PewDiePie and the Wall Street Journal. The PewDiePie versus the Wall Street Journal issue changed YouTube forever. YouTube ended up catching on that YouTube videos were having certain ads playing on certain bad types of videos. I gotta watch what I say here because of the YouTube algorithm, because if I say a certain no-no word, they're gonna, get upset with me. But PewDiePie ended up making a video reacting to videos that were very offensive and mean, and they were getting ads actually on them. I don't quite remember whether it was the video that he was reacting to or his video about reacting to the other videos directly, but it was technically against the YouTube terms of service to do that, because they were actually getting ads on videos regarding bad topics. I really gotta watch what I say here because of YouTube 2019. But Wall Street Journal ended up making a video about this and made a lot of the advertisers on YouTube stop putting their ads on YouTube videos, which made YouTube lose money. And so what they did to prevent losing the advertisers, that they made much more stricter rules on their terms of service. YouTube always back in the day was very lenient on their terms of service, all the way up until about 2016, I would say so. They were never fully forgiving. If you did something really, really bad, of course they would get you, and even something semi-bad. But YouTube, in comparison to what it was, is completely different. You have to be very, very careful what you say on YouTube and what you do on YouTube in 2019. But even before 2016, just before this event, you were a lot more forgive for what you did. And the problem was that this ended up going down a slippery slope, which is now known as the Adpocalypse on YouTube, where if you do a certain thing or say a certain thing on YouTube, you will end up getting demonetized, which is a feature where if you have the YouTube partnership, or you can make money off your video or have ads on it, if you do a certain thing, they will give you a yellow symbol, basically meaning that your video is not advertiser friendly, and that we can't display our ads on for you. So you would have to follow the guidelines in order to do so. And the problem was that as the years have gone on, even though this bot has gotten better, it's still a issue where sometimes videos get falsely demonetized for something that shouldn't be the case. And this ends up making it where YouTube is in a spot where they have to try to find a balance between the platform itself and also its creators, balancing out the ads versus the content, the advertisers versus the viewers, and etc. and etc. And the thing is, though, is with this is that you can't really satisfy everybody. So YouTube is trying to win a battle that is unwinnable. They're trying to satisfy both the creators and also the advertisers, and it's kind of making a jumbled mess where no one's satisfied. If you neglect something important, whether it be for one or the other, people are going to gravitate toward that, and they're going to notice that, and therefore you can't win. Now, with the YouTube algorithm as well, other than people, there has also been other significant changes that have just happened on the platform in general. I would say there's been about 3 of these. So the first one is that when YouTube ended up getting bought by Google, because that is made it where they can end up having the monetization feature in the first place. The YouTube partnership, I believe, came out in 2011 when YouTube was bought by Google. When Google bought YouTube, they implemented the YouTube partnership where you could actually make ads pop up on your video, so that way you could get ad revenue. Now the thing is, though, is that this ended up essentially starting the trend, or the quote, where YouTube is now a business. Because before this, the way that YouTube worked is that you upload a video and it may or may not get popular, but that was it. There was no money involved whatsoever, unless I guess you technically did something with a third party. But from YouTube specifically itself, you did not gain any money at all. And then when Google bought it, that changed. I don't know the reason why in full Google even wanted to do that. I guess to make money for themselves to a certain degree. But this made it so that way YouTube is now also part business. There is channels out there that only just do this as a business, and that's just sometimes the sad truth if you want to do this as a hobby, to compete with big corporations, which if you don't know is a reference to the T-Series versus PewDiePie subscriber battle. Oh, can I even say that either? I really gotta watch some of the words that I say with YouTube, but the PewDiePie versus T-Series thing. I would say also another big event is when YouTube ended up doing the sub purges, or the YouTube cleanses, I guess you could say, where they would end up clearing out accounts that were no longer active, and then you had PewDiePie and Syndicate and T Martin and you know, LEA and Keemstar and Scarce and all these other YouTubers, just to name a few, their subscriber counts went down because their subscribers that were technically not active anymore, or unused accounts, they disappeared and YouTube just removed them, so that way you wouldn't have a false set of subscribers. This also seemed to be the case with also just in general just other features, which leads to my last thing, which is also the censoring of some things that YouTubers and also what viewers can say or do, such as the YouTube comment section, you know, having certain things being said, which can modify how your video does. Also your view interaction, like false copyright claims or false you know, reports, etc., etc. And this has also affected YouTube in a way, because they have to look for claims that are false and also claims that are true, and that distracts from making the website better, and instead makes them have to try to fix something that shouldn't be manipulated. The one thing with YouTube as well, to wrap things up here, that makes YouTube, for better or for worse sometimes, other than the changing algorithm, other than the events, and also the way that YouTubers and just people are in general, is that life changes. This is very vague, but I will try to elaborate on it, so let me explain. The way that the world works as we know it, at least the way that this world, the one that we are in, depending on whether you believe in, I guess, the alternate universe theory or whatever, the world that we are in as we know it is always changing, whether we like it, whether we don't like it. The YouTube algorithm is also a part of this said change, but the YouTube algorithm is always going to want to try to promote what is best for itself, which means it has to keep up with current events, which means that life in itself is a changing algorithm. And so what just in general is popular at the time is going to do well, and what is not popular might not do also as well. But the thing is, though, is that when it comes to things and how things catch on, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith for things to get popular. You want to do something that's not oversaturated, but also something that is not unpopular. And what this leads into is that, to wrap things up, my point is that the reason why I think YouTube will end a certain way, other than the algorithm, the people, and also set events, is just because life in general is changing and the algorithm is trying to keep up with that. So the final thing that I need to say is, how do I think that YouTube is going to end? After all this, after all that I've said, after everything that I have done, even on this YouTube channel, what you have done with this comment section, what we have done as people in general, the way that YouTube will end is when we stop caring. This is what I mean by we stop caring. We end up just not wanting to help each other out anymore, and even ourselves. So if we end up, for example, like, let's say, see something that is blatantly bad that we know as humans, whether it be a horrible YouTube video getting ads, or certain false claims for whatever reason, whether it be copyright, or for violating the guidelines, or for a YouTuber doing something to try to gain the algorithm, if we stop caring and don't report these things, they will continue to happen. If you see something, for example, like somebody that is blatantly manipulating the algorithm, such as clickbait, that people always say, and you don't say something, this will continue to go on, because certain things can't be gotten rid of if they don't change themselves. If you even make a slight difference or a slight change, that is still better than no change. When I say change, it doesn't have to be drastic. You don't have to do a 180. Change just in general just means just something slightly different. And if you can do only just things that are slightly different, in the spectrum of things, if you look at it, it's still barely changed, which means you can still keep manipulating that same system. So in the way that if you look at things and just life in general, is that even if you do a little change, if it's such a little change, essentially it's also no change. And the change that I'm referring to, it's clickbait, for example. If you clickbait, or you know somebody's clickbaiting, and they only change it little by little, it's not exactly changing significantly enough for the better, or in this case, not being clickbait. And so the one thing that you can do to fix that is to report it, or to mention it in the correct form or fashion. Point it out, but don't lie. Don't point it out and don't cause problems. Point it out and don't add fuel to the fire. And if you don't care and you don't report these things, they will continue to happen for worse. Whether it be the false copyright claims, the false demonetization, the false adpocalypse, whatever you may be thinking of. If you stop caring, that's when YouTube will end. Twitch has had the same issue, for example, right now, when in regards to Ninja's Twitch channel, where he recently left for Mixer, and the platform is being neglected and is being basically used as a advertisement, and they're being hypocrites and not getting along with their community, and eventually people are just going to cease caring unless they are always reminded of. People can easily forget unless they are reminded sometimes, unless it usually tends to be significant enough to them. We have had other moments with other platforms as well. We've had this with Instagram and Twitch having their own sub-bots, and them getting purged out. We've also had this happen, which is real life events in general. Certain life events, unless they are reminded, they get forgotten, and that can be a bad thing, and history can repeat itself in that sense. The reason why we even have history in school, I know this is more elaborate than it should be, but think about it this way. The reason that why we have a history class in schools to remind us about these things that have happened of significance, so that way they don't get forgotten. And that still applies to something as simple as YouTube's algorithm and just how YouTube will go from here on out. If you have something and it doesn't get reminded because people don't care enough, then that's when it ceases to become a actual good thing and it becomes just only a bad thing. If you see something, say something. If you see something, do something, etc., etc. Because, for example, if you go back to like history and just like, for example, things in school, when you learn about, you know, all these previous engagements with all these other foreign countries, or for example with our own, or etc., etc., and you remind people about these things for generation to generation, they can be fixed, because you can't fix something if no one tells you how. For example, you know what I mean? You see where I'm getting? It's like trying to operate a car without having a teacher. Sure, you might have the idea of what to do based off of what you've learned, But at the same time, though, it would be better to be told, wouldn't it? You don't want to, for example, have a math test and not have the teacher tell you how to do it and just go in just completely blind. And that's the same case with YouTube. I know this might seem vague. I know this has been kind of scattered all over the place, whether I intended to be or not at some parts, but I have tried my best to make this a decent video for your viewing pleasure, and I do truly hope you ended up enjoying. And I look you guys in the eyes through this camera as I say this, but I hope you truly enjoyed the video, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could drop a thumbs up on the video. Comment on the video, let me know your thoughts on what I said throughout the video, and also subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, because that's greatly appreciated, and I'll let you guys know when I am uploading another video, because these are also little things that will help out my channel get popular and help me gain the algorithm, so I can actually help bring more attention to certain things, so that way we just don't have any more clickbait. You know, if you guys enjoy videos like this and you enjoy honest, hard-working, great content, please leave the like, please leave the comment, and please also subscribe. And also turn on the notification bell as well, because YouTube can sometimes mess up just due to their own algorithm and their own fault sometimes. But at the end of the day, we're just all humans trying to do our own thing and just have fun. So if you want to help me have fun so I can help make it where you guys can have fun, definitely do that, and hopefully things will work out for the best. I hope you truly enjoyed the video once again. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.